Team, what's up? We're at the finish line, and I can't tell you how proud I am of you for getting this far. We're not quite done yet, but we're right there, and we're going to finish strong. And as you continue to move forward with working towards your goals, I want you to begin seeing yourself in a different light. For a long time, many of you saw yourself as someone who couldn't, who can't, and who won't. You felt like a failure because of some of the choices you made and because you weren't where you wanted to be in life. You hoped things would change. You wished things would change. You felt weak and didn't believe you had the power to make anything change. But guess what? Things have changed. You're not in the same place you were 3 weeks ago. You're a better, stronger, more confident, more focused, and more disciplined version of yourself right now. And now that you can see what you couldn't see before, you're going to begin to make the invisible visible. And to do that, you need to change how you view yourself. You don't just have potential. You have the power to activate that potential and to turn it into something. And people who do that are called creators. Creators take the potential found in everyday life and turn them into works of art. And that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to take the potential from your choices, your consistency, and your community to create the life you want to live because you're a creator. Right now, the goals that you have are still just in your mind. But for the last 3 weeks, you've been going through the creative process. You've been putting your ideas on paper. You've been talking about them. You've been studying them. You've been investing in them. You've been spending time placing structure around them so that one day you can bring them to life. So as you begin to create the life you want to live, there are 3 things that I want you to always abide by. I want you to keep these 3 things in your heart and mind and don't ever let them go. I call them the Creator's Creed. The Creator's Creed is to take progress over perfection, to focus on output over outcomes, and to model attitude over everything. Progress over perfection, output over outcomes, and attitude over everything. I mentioned in a previous session that I'm a recovering perfectionist. And what being a perfectionist meant for me was that I had excessively high standards for myself. And because those standards were so high, I was overly critical and unforgiving. Nobody was more critical of me than I was of myself. And nobody expected more out of me than I expected from myself. And to some people, they may look at that and think, it's a good thing, but it really wasn't. Those people would be mistaking striving for excellence with striving for perfection. See, striving for excellence means that you're holding yourself to a standard high enough to encourage you to produce high quality work. But excellence gives you the room to grow, to evaluate yourself, and allows you to make mistakes along the way. Striving for perfection means that you're holding yourself to unattainable standards. There's no room for growth or self-evaluation because there's no room for mistakes. The standards are simply impossible to meet. And the main problem that striving for perfection creates in people is that they don't allow themselves to be human. So when they make mistakes, when they fail, when they have setbacks, it affects them far worse than the people who are striving for excellence because there's no room for imperfections. And that mentality results in nothing ever being good enough. And I'm sure all of us know a perfectionist. They're the person who wants to be in a relationship, meets great people, but passes up on every prospect because they're looking for the perfect person who checks off every box. They're the person who continues to work on a project that could have been released ages ago, but won't do it because they want to make it just right and release it at just the right time. They're the person who makes mistakes that are common to just about everybody, but can't get over them because they can't believe that they made those mistakes in the first place. They're the person who holds themselves back because the things that they're pursuing don't exist. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship. There's no such thing as the perfect time. There's no such thing as the perfect person. And even if they did find that theoretical perfect situation, things would go south the second they showed up because they're not perfect. And I know this because I struggled with it myself. But one day, a good friend helped me find freedom through a conversation we had over the phone. I was telling him about some project I was working on and that I was waiting to get it just right. And he said to me, Keelan, stop waiting to get it all right and just get it going. Because if you wait to get it all right, you'll never get it going. He said, stop trying to make it perfect and just make progress. Progress over perfection. From that short conversation, he helped me realize that it's better to make progress with imperfections than it is to be stuck in the same place trying to be perfect. So stop trying to make everything perfect, because not even practice makes perfect. But what it will make is progress. Listen, everybody makes mistakes, and there's levels to everything. There's always more you can do. There's always room to grow. And as a creator, you have to change your expectations from perfection to excellence, because we're done with being stuck. At this point, it's about getting to the next level. And the only way we can get to the next level is by making progress, not by trying to be perfect. And let me show you what that looked like for me, because you've been experiencing my personal progress over perfection for almost 3 weeks now. I finished filming this course on March 9 of 2023 and thought I'd be able to release it a month or two later after editing and finishing the website. But due to circumstances completely outside of my control, I had to start filming all over. And because I just needed to get this course out there, instead of using a professional like I did when I originally filmed the course, I had to do everything myself. So the video quality isn't the same. The lighting isn't the best. The sound could be better. I lost a lot because filming isn't something that I do. And the old me would have found another videographer and filmed the entire project again so it could be perfect. But the new me said, getting the content out there is more important than it looking and sounding like a professional production, because I have to make progress. It's not going to be perfect, but if you do your best and strive for excellence, you'll at least be able to make progress so that you can perfect whatever it is over time. Progress over perfection. Next, as a creator, you have to commit yourself to focusing on output over outcomes. Now, before anybody misunderstands me, what I'm not going to say is that you should ignore or disregard working towards and planning for certain outcomes, because of course you should. We have goals for that very reason. Now, the outcomes you plan for should obviously be based in reality, but we are without a doubt working towards and planning for certain results. We're not putting the work in for nothing. But that's not why you as a creator need to focus on output over outcomes. The reason you need to focus on output over outcomes is because you have more control over the output than you do over the outcomes. You have complete control over your effort, over your attitude, and over your actions. And one of the things we've been emphasizing throughout this process is to exercise your power by controlling what you can control. See, what I want to convey is that it's not an either or. It's simply an emphasis on. You have to do both, but one is primary and the other is secondary. And you in particular have to do this because I know what's happening. Your confidence is sky high right now, and you're ready to take over the world. But you have to make sure that you don't become overconfident and forget about where you came from. It's been a really tough road for a lot of you, and part of the reason it's been tough is because you always thought you'd be in a better position by now. You thought you'd be moving up in your career instead of working random jobs to get by. You thought you'd be married with children, have a house with a white picket fence and a dog, but you've been in your parents' basement and single as ever. You thought life was going to give you something and found out that life only responds to what you give it. And because you weren't where you wanted to be, all of your energy went into hoping that tomorrow would bring you something different. You were always hoping for better outcomes when the outcomes weren't the problem. The problem was your output. You wanted things to happen when you should have been making things happen. In other words, you were expecting to reap something you never sowed. And you used hope to deceive yourself into thinking that you didn't have the power to change your situation, which is why you have to focus more on your output. The output is where your power lies. The output is where you can make things happen. The output is what's going to change the outcomes. What we have to do is to focus on the root so that we can produce good fruit. The root is your output. The fruit are the outcomes. No root, no fruit. So as you create, lock in on the root, your choices, your habits, your effort, your attitude, your output, because that's what's going to have the biggest impact on the fruit, your outcomes. Output over outcomes. Last but not least, and I need you to feel me on this one, you have to have the right attitude. As a creator, as someone who is bringing something into existence, your attitude about who you are, about what you do, about where you are, about where you're going, about everything can make you or it can break you. Listen to these 3 quotes. For success, attitude is equally as important as ability. That's from Walter Scott, a Scottish novelist, poet, and author. Here's another one. Your attitude, not your aptitude, will determine your altitude. Zig Ziglar, motivational speaker and author. Last one. A positive attitude causes a chain reaction of positive thoughts, events, and outcomes. It is a catalyst and it sparks extraordinary results. Wade Boggs, former Major League Baseball player. Now, if you pay close attention to all 3 of those quotes, they all made a bold claim, mainly that your attitude will in large part determine your success in life. And the question is, why is that? And I'll tell you why. Many psychologists say that your attitude has 3 components. First, there's the cognitive component, your thoughts about a particular thing or subject. Then there's the emotional component, how that particular thing makes you feel. Last, there's the behavioral component, how your thoughts and feelings influence your behavior. So what does that mean when you put them all together? The simplest way I can explain it is that what's inside of you, what you think, how you feel, will eventually express itself in some type of behavior. It doesn't happen all the time, but the stronger the belief or feeling, the more likely it's going to come out. For example, many of us believed at some point that we were failures. The stance we took on ourselves was that we were unsuccessful at everything we did. That's the cognitive component. And how did that belief make us feel? We felt like crap. We felt dejected, hurt, broken. That's the emotional component. And how did that influence our behavior? We would avoid challenges because we were afraid to fail. Some of us would talk negatively about ourselves, lowering our self-esteem. Some of us gave up on our future. That's the behavioral component. So what happened? What happened was that our negative thoughts created negative feelings, and those negative thoughts and feelings created negative behaviors, which resulted in negative outcomes. In math, you can put 2 negatives together and get a positive, but that's not how life works. In life, negativity breeds more negativity. But the good news is that it works exactly the same way with positivity. The more positivity you bring to the table, the more positivity you'll get in return. So let's switch sides and see how positivity has affected you. Before, you may have seen yourself as a failure, but now you're seeing yourself as someone who can foresee success and someone who's going to create their success. That's the cognitive component. So how does that belief make you feel? You're feeling really good about yourself. You're feeling good about your progress. You're feeling hopeful. You're happier. You're excited about the future. And how is that influencing your behavior? You're giving 110% when you used to give up. You're working on your goals every day when you used to be inconsistent. You're pushing through when you don't feel like it. You created a plan. You have a system. You're connected to a community. You have support. So what's happening to you? What's happening is that your positive thoughts created positive feelings, and those positive thoughts and feelings created positive behaviors, which resulted in positive outcomes. Listen to me closely. The reason your attitude has to be over everything is because your attitude affects everything. So stay positive no matter what. because it's the only way you're going to create positive outcomes. So as you continue to create the life you desire, the life you dream of, and the life you deserve, don't ever forget the Creator's Creed: to take progress over perfection, to focus on output over outcomes, and to model attitude over everything. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.